For those that are here, the meeting is being recorded, and we will send that out. But my name is Mark. I am the partner webinar coordinator here with ICLCA. For those that are familiar with, not familiar with the name, we used to be NCLCA. And at the conference in Portland, Oregon, the membership voted to change the name to the International College Learning Center Association. So that is why you do see some branding changes there. We are glad today to have Ed Shepherdson here with us from Quad C. They're going to be presenting on adapting and thriving, navigating change in higher education, talking a little bit about their platform, I think, and how maybe that can support you. So I'm going to turn it over to Ed and let him take it from here.
All right. Can you see my screen? I'm sharing it. Is it up and shared?
Yes, Ed. We can see it.
All right, awesome. Okay, well, good. Good morning, everybody, and good lunch hour, I guess, for some. And I hope everybody had a nice holiday season, and you know, are back in the main stream of exams and all that good stuff. And you know, for our Canadian, if there's some Canadians on here, which I'm a Canadian up in Ottawa, Canada. You know, we're excited to have you on this webinar. You know, so my name is Ed Shepherdson. I'm with Quad CIO. You know, Quad C is a platform that is really about helping student success and retention. You know, by providing you know, connectivity between you know, students and services, and measuring their progress, and helping, you know, move people along you know, the educational journey. And we do that through, you know, in online and in-person management of sessions. So through this, you know, this presentation, you know, I'm not going to talk too much about the product, and more about the need to assess change inside your organization. You know, because as we work with you know, different institutions and different people, you know, we see a lot of, you know, people in that you know, decision management. You know, when do we change? How do we change? What do we change? And so we really kind of wanted to bring some thought leadership to that conversation today. So and I think thank you, Mark, for the introduction. And I think if there's any, you know, questions and stuff like that, I think in the platform here, either through chat or the Q&A, you can you know, kind of pose questions. And Mark, you know, I guess you know, you can feel free to interrupt me if there's questions, or we can wait. There is a period at the end that we'll take Q&A. All right, so here's quickly you know, kind of a look at the overall agenda, and you know, we'll walk through these and talk about them, and you know, bring them to you as we go along here. So you know, what's prompting some of this you know, some of this dialogue about change. And you know, and I'm sure you're all aware, change is inevitable. It's been around in your organizations. It's always been there. But I think in the last you know, pandemic on, and as we move into the post-pandemic environment, you know, we're really seeing the impact of the impact of the, you know, the pandemic and the whole thing, you know, from around the world. And really what it's, you know, it's causing is this, you know, decline, you know, in higher education enrollment. All right. And, you know, there's all kinds of articles, there's thousands of articles out there, and there's all kinds of, you know, conversations taking place about, you know, what we should do and how we should do it and all those types of things. And so, you know, that was kind of what prompted us to say, you know, let's talk about change, because change, you know, there's you know, boiling the ocean change, there's making small improvements, and so forth. And it all comes down to how you engage with it and how you build your organization to really look at change. And just, you know, for the Canadian folks, so you know, we are seeing, you know, from some of the statistics that we have, that, you know, enrollment is had some challenges, and you know, it has obviously a major impact on organizations, and so we just wanted to kind of recognize that. And we know that in our, you know, in the U.S. base of institutions, that this is also a you know, a challenge that they're facing. And with challenges, you know, really become opportunities, right? there's always opportunities to engage and to work and to move forward. So, but to get this really going, one of the questions that I'd like you just to sit down and think about for a minute and think about the impact of it. And so, as we have seen organizations, think about the challenges before them, one of the things that we've identified is that institutions recruit new students every year. And when we recruit new students every year, we seem like we're okay with only 50 to 70% and sometimes higher, 80% of them graduating. And versus a goal to say everybody should graduate that starts. Now we know that there's conditions that cause that, but just, we seem to have, I seem to hear that, we're happy with this lower percentage of people graduating out of our universities, out of our colleges, out of our institutions. And we question that because, if I was a car manufacturer and I said, hey, I'm going to build this many cars every year, but I'm only going to sell 70% of them, it doesn't take, deep math to figure it out that after 3 years, I've got more inventory than I need to build. And so I would never build a supply chain that is not going to try to sell everything that I created. And I think if we look at the student journey as a supply chain process, every student that gets on the supply chain belt, I want them to graduate. All right. So when we start to think of change in that mechanism, is start to think of, well, where's my part of the supply chain? Where do I fit in the supply chain? And when I fit in a supply chain somewhere, if I am not optimized to maximize the benefits for the student, then I'm causing a delay for that student with inside the supply chain delivery mechanism. So I think if we kind of look at it at that scale and understand that we each have a role to play and every role is important. So again, it's not that, oh, I need to have this big picture and I'm going to boil the ocean and make all these massive changes. I can make a change in my one little area that I'm responsible for. And that's all part of ensuring that this supply chain continues to grow and continues to move. One of the things, and this is not a new thing in terms of change management, but typically the biggest competition for organizations is the status quo. So just allowing what we did last time to continue to happen. And again, that's where that question about kind of graduation rates. Why do we? And I know everybody fundamentally wants the graduation rates to be as high as they are, but what action are we taking to make that happen? All right. And I, sorry if it sounds like I'm lecturing. I'm not lecturing. I'm just kind of trying to put some perspective around how we view the changes in institutional practices that we'd like to see. So today, if we look at it, the world today is a very different place. It's a complex environment for our students. At all levels, whether it's graduate, postgraduate, coming out of high school, going through high school, it's a really a different world, and students are requiring, I think more challenging help in the process of going through the educational system and through their own personal student journey. And so, I think that's one of the things that we really need to be conscious of. There's economic factors like, lower enrollments and those things that are happening, but to the students themselves, the students are facing, their own challenges. And so, really, bring this into, why we need to pay attention to the student journey, why we need to ensure that student supply chain is optimized all the way through the processes. We need to help these students, make it through, to graduation as quickly as we can. And, so the student needs are changing. There's all kinds of technology partners like Quad C out there that are trying to create technology to help. And it's a matter of taking individual processes, individual situations, looking at, can technology, make a difference here? Sometimes it's just the human connection that makes the difference, and it's not technology. It's about that empathy between a professor, a student, a tutor, whatever the service is that you're providing. It's that connection of all those things together. And so so the biggest thing I want to kind of get out of some of this is that we need to take action, and really if we break it down to bite-sized chunks, it's not rocket science. We're not inventing something new. We're optimizing existing practices and so forth. And so it's just it's a matter of how do we bring our ideas and our thoughts and our change practices to the table. And so where do you start? Like, one of the questions that we often get asked in terms of change management is where do we start? And basically we can start in many different places. All right. And each person has a different set of responsibilities. I may be the director, I may be the associate VP, I may be the manager for tutoring, I may be a tutor or some part in that ecosystem, that supply chain. And what we ask is just take a look at your own role, your own job, your own area of expertise, and start asking yourself some of these questions. So what is the data that I have available to me? What is what am I hearing back from people? What are the environmental changes that are happening? And one of the things that, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, is but this personal SWOT analysis or team SWOT analysis or group SWOT analysis, where I'm really looking at strengths and weaknesses and the opportunities and threats as to what is it for me that I can understand, I can influence, I can talk about, and I can create some ideas and thoughts about where could change happen, what are the things that are happening. And then the thing here just on the bottom here, the benchmarking is, we also hear from many institutions that each organization kind of operates independently for some, and then there's common areas and so forth. And so one of the challenges I would really have you all think about is to how can I communicate with inside my institution, with inside organizations to help the overall educational system, because this is where that thought leadership can come from anywhere, and these ideas need to be shared. And an organization like ICLCA is a great place to highlight and share your thoughts and your ideas. And having attended the conference in Portland, I thought it was fantastic, where people were sharing their ideas. They were presenting things that they've done with inside their organization, identifying the challenges, and a lot of talk about diversity and so forth across the organization, but also programs and how did they optimize this. And so share whatever you come up with in terms of how you're going to change or how you might approach change. Share it with the community, because this is where the whole educational system, the institutions are going to get ideas and continue to mature and move forward. All right, so I talked a little bit about the SWOT analysis, just in terms of identifying what you can do at your own level. And if I'm just an individual contributor, right, I can sit down and ask myself all these questions. And what are my strengths? I'm a good collaborator, I'm a good communicator, I'm very empathetic, for helping students and helping the process and the administration and all those things. So you at an individual can talk about what are my strengths, what are the weaknesses, what are the opportunities I have as an individual to make a change in our organization, to make a change for what I do. Maybe not trying to change the organization, but make a change for what I do. And if we do these things, then we start to build a consciousness of what is possible, right? And again, I'll talk about the status quo. Is we sometimes, and I do it as much as anybody else does, is you just get into your routine, and you know what, you think, hey, the routine for me seems to be working very well, but what if it could work a little bit better? And so, asking yourself those questions, asking yourself on a regular basis, what am I doing here, and how could I do this? Now, this can start at an individual, it can start at a team level, it can start at a group level, faculty level, whatever level you want to kind of invest in. But it really, again, just the idea of thinking about the change, or thinking about your own change, thinking about what you can do, is really the catalyst to get this going. All right, so the next the next questions that we get to say, okay, well, you know what, I've taken this time, I sat back, and we as a group, or me as an individual, we created our SWOT analysis, and we have an understanding of what I would like to see change, versus what I'm doing today, and we start to ask ourselves, well, okay, I have this now, what do I do with it, right? And so there's there's a number of models. I'm going to show a couple of models. There's probably 10 or 20 different models out there, and they're all have their own nuances. They all have their own mechanisms. But just to display a couple of them, and kind of walk you through kind of what they're trying to accomplish, and what they're trying to get you to think about as you go through the change process. And the first one is this Dakar. It's been around I think from the mid 80s or something like that, but it's a well-known, well-proven practice that has been used over and over again. And again, from an individual level to the highest level, what's the awareness? I got to create awareness that something needs to change. And then kind of what's the conviction? What's the conviction? What am I going to stand behind? What am I going to stand behind and say, hey, yes, I want to bring this to the forefront. What skills are involved, and what abilities do I have as an individual to act on it, right? And sometimes I don't have any, but what, by communicating the idea, that idea may generate other ideas, may generate and spark some momentum in terms of what the organization can do, what my group can do, what I can do as an individual. And then the final part is that to say, well, when I have these ideas, ideas are free. Everybody has ideas, but I also want to kind of just say, well, if I have this idea, and I've gone through all these other steps, what is it really going to change? Like what's going to be the value of this change, and why would I say that this is important? And here in this model, the question is, what happens when we are successful? So what is the value of the change that happens? I'd like to add another question to that. That if you've thought of this idea, obviously there's something behind it. The other question I would ask is, what if we're successful, but what if we're not successful? What is the cost of doing this? What is the cost of the status quo, of not changing? And kind of asking yourself those two questions, because with those two questions, you can really set the stage for understanding where change exists, right? And so, if we just say, hey, I have an idea, but I don't put anything behind it, I don't put any conviction behind it, then it's likely going to falter and not go anywhere. But if I can bring it to a fruition where I say, if we do this, we can increase, instead of 14% retention, or 89% retention, I can get us to 92% retention, which in terms of dollars and values is a big number. Or I can schedule 6 more people a week that need help versus what I was doing last week. So the scale of this what happens if I'm successful, again, can come from individual right up to the highest level within inside your organization. But I would just think about asking that question: what if I don't do this? What if I don't make these changes? What's gonna, what's kind of the cost, or what's the downside? Another model is a Cotter's model. Again, it's been around for a long time, and I'm throwing up these models to show you that there are vetted models that exist out there. That you can go on the internet and you can find all kinds of information. There's also a ton of tools out there, but to be honest with you, the big part of change management is you and your brain and your thoughts and putting them down. The SWOT analysis is probably one of the most important pieces. Use these things as guidelines to say, okay, how might I communicate this out? But really the emphasis is on you as participating individuals inside your organizations, whether you're leading groups or whether you're an individual, a contributor. You all have a say, and it's important to have that say. Once you got the idea, then there's these models that you can walk through. So, and again, they're not rocket science. They're not some highly trained model that you have to go through. It's what's the urgency of this? Like if I'm sitting there and I'm only able to service 30% of all of the students that are coming to me asking for tutoring or asking for help or asking for writing services or whatever service it is, asking for advice, then the urgency is pretty high, because I'm leaving 70% of my students hanging without an answer, right? And so you can create urgency. You can say, who else do I need to talk to? And again, just gives you some ideas on how to walk through, how to bring your idea to a higher level inside your organization. If it's an individual thing and you can do it yourself, fantastic, do it, right? So just don't sit on your ideas. Bring them, make them happen. All right. So when we look at change management, there is many people that could be impacted by the change and by the change. And this is probably one of the most challenging factors in change management, is that if I could isolate my change just to myself, then you debate with yourself if you're going to do it or not, and that's that's as simple. But the minute you go to two people or three people or a team or a group or a faculty or a department, then the conversation becomes bigger. One of the things that we really need to understand is kind of what is the current state, where are we today, and what are we doing today. But we also have to be very conscious of what are the perspectives of the other people that are involved in what I'm doing or what my group does or what my service provides, and really understanding the perspectives from those different areas, right? So while we may all be responsible for customer success, for student success, in the middle, we're very student centric, because that's our role, is to make students get through this supply chain very, very smoothly and making sure that they reach their goals. Everybody has a different perspective as to what and where that student is inside that supply chain, or in their journey, their student journey. And so as you start to branch out and understand the different perspectives, is bring that into your thinking, and to say, here's what, here's my idea, here's our group idea, here's our team idea, this is what we think is going to deliver for us. All right, but how might the department lead, the head of the department, how might they look at it? How might the faculty and staff look at this? How might administration look at this change? How might the student look at this change and say? And so by putting some of those things into your perspectives, it really kind of helps you understand, okay, here's where we are, and when I move from the as is to the to be, and I'm describing those things, those successes or the costs, I can say, from a student's perspective, here's what they're going to gain. They're going to gain a seamless environment that allow them to get to any service in 1 or 2 clicks on their iPhone or on their mobile device. Okay, there's a benefit for the student. All right, what it does for managers is that managers now, blah blah blah, they get this benefit by having to manually set up sessions for all of these students, and reduces their overhead. So you can see how if in the current state you understand the perspectives from all of these different stakeholders, then you can kind of look at it and say, what is the value for each of these stakeholders as if we move forward, or if we look at this change in terms of something that we want to commit to. and it just helps you, really articulate well what it is you're going to try to do, what's the value for everybody, and so forth. Now, so that's all nice. That's motherhood and apple pie. Everybody says, yeah, all ideas are not going to get accepted. We know that. We know that things don't, just you get an idea and everybody jumps on board and it happens. But what we have to remember that if we don't say the idea, then nothing is going to change. But if we say the idea and it's not fully accepted, it may be the catalyst that spurs on, well, you know what, we're not going to do this, but you bring up a good idea that we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, because we realize that there's challenges in this area. So that's the thing that by understanding the current state, again, from your own perspective, but looking around you and understanding the perspective from others, can help you define what the desired state would be, the to be state would be. All right, and this is an evolution that continues. You want to continue to do it and keep it moving, because organizations don't stand still; they keep moving, and it's this week versus last week versus next month versus next semester, things have changed, and so always be in this mindset of thinking about how we could improve the student journey and the student supply chain. All right, so what is again, so we can generate lots of ideas, we can do lots of work on kind of articulating what our ideas are. But we also realize, and I'm sure you realize, you're in the environments that there's, the challenges for change are always there. Our normal instincts, as humans, is a resistance to change. We don't like to change. We like to know, exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it, and all those things. But the resistance to change at the bottom, and the way that I look at it is, that status quo, if we do nothing, then what you get is you get no incremental value. You don't get a better service. You don't improve the success of the student. You don't improve your revenue, and you don't reduce your costs. So that do nothing, that no value proposition, no additional value proposition, actually does have a cost, right? And so that's why we need to encourage people to to bring their ideas forward, to get them on the table, so that as the organization looks at these things, they can make very informed decisions that have an impact inside the organization. We fully understand that there's regulations and there's governance within organizations, and so the bigger the change, the bigger the challenge for people, and that's fine. Not to say that it shouldn't be raised and it shouldn't become aware of, but just that there is kind of we understand that there's layers of governance that people have to go through. Also, clearly, many stakeholders in the group, and it's not just one individual. As you get to scale, to some of the changes that come in at scale. So, we fully understand that. We know that it's not, that it's not easy, but it is something. Again, I would say that kind of sitting on the status quo, is not the right way to continue to run your organizations. All right. So, all right. So how do we start to overcome that? And again, this is a bit of kind of motherhood and apple pie in terms of these are not not wild new concepts and stuff. But by doing the homework, the SWOT analysis, the as is to the to be and perspectives, and understanding the perspectives, really allows you to communicate clearly, what the value is, what you're trying to get across, why you're trying to do that, and that's so important, to really to show that you've thought through this, your group's thought through this, you've thought through this, and that will then generate some curiosity, some urgency, some validation of what you're trying to do. Strong leadership. If there's not a mindset with inside your team, your group, your organization, to be generative in terms of ideas, in terms of change, that can have a dampening effect on the ability for organizations to change. And so you do need strong leadership, and and that's I would encourage that. We challenge leadership to really be engaged and understand, and again, that's through the clear communication. Get as many, stakeholders, that are directly impacted, get them involved in the communication, and in part of the discussion, versus, kind of coming in and saying, hey, here's what we want to do, is get them involved early in the discussion about ideas that you have. And get their buy-in early and work on it, because sometimes they may not understand it at first, but as you build out your plan and as you identify the opportunities and such, you can then build on top of that to get deeper and deeper stakeholder engagement. Use some of those models. Again, you don't have to go and buy product, you don't have to go out and do that, but use some of those models as a framework, the change management models as a framework, to make sure that you are collecting and articulating as much of the information that you have available, to share with your group. And by doing that bit of work, again, it just builds confidence that the values that you talk about, or the cost savings, or whatever it is that you're building towards, has some validity and has some value to the organization. And then, like as I mentioned earlier, the last part of this is really just really about kind of, hey, my idea didn't get accepted this time, or my idea didn't go what I thought, or whatever. But it doesn't mean, okay, hey, I'm not going to make any more ideas, I'm not going to generate any more thoughts. I'm going to kind of let's see how this works, and let's see how this goes. Maybe there's something that happens that adds more value, that allows me to move forward. So always, kind of always be. It's not necessarily always questioning, but always validating what you're doing. Is it creating the maximum value, for yourself, for your group, for the students, and for the success of the student through the student journey and the student supply chain. All right, you may or may not have have seen this this kind of diagram before. Jeffrey Moore in Crossing the Chasm, which is a business book on how products come to market and how organizations change. And this has been around for a while, but it's over and over again. It validates the way organizations and people think about change, right? And so you want to kind of understand, going into the change process, where is your organization in terms of, some of these high level, concepts. So, do you have a leader that is an innovator that, wants to be on the front end? And, if I looked at an innovation in leadership today, organizations that are adopting AI and not from the, kind of the straight, oh, this is giving students answers or writing their papers for them and that kind of stuff, but it's more, how can we use AI to enhance the whole the operations, the experience, the creativity of our students and so forth, right? So really, jumping on the front end of that versus, am I an organization where, hey, when everybody else has really bought in and it's now kind of a standard, then that's when I'm going to buy in. All right. But each one of these has a different value for where you are in your organization, in terms of enhancing the success of your students going through their student journey. All right. So there's no, the only place I would say you probably don't want to really be in the late majority of the laggards, because you're falling off the map in terms of competitiveness. And if that's where you are, you're probably not highly ranked in the institutional benchmarking. So somewhere in the the early adopters to early majority, is really where organizations, thrive and move forward in terms of their ability to compete and to stay, relevant in the marketplace, in your own marketplace and in your rankings inside the educational framework. All right, so I just put this up here just kind of to say there is an understanding of where and when change can happen. But again, I would just say that this doesn't eliminate you or doesn't block you, from creating ideas. You may say, well, yeah, we're more traditional, we're kind of a late adopter, type school. But that doesn't mean that you can't have ideas and you can't enhance that process inside your organization. So really, kind of look at this and say that this is kind of guideline as to where and how our organization might operate as you think about change. All right. Okay. So when it comes to change, I'm going to come back to kind of the supply chain notation, for a student going through the 5 years, the 2 years or the 4 years of their academic journey, and really what you want to be looking at is from an overall perspective is are we producing really good students? Are there enough of them? And how quickly are they getting through the process? And are we misbalanced in some way? And so if you have if your program is a 4-year program, but you've got 60% of your students are taking 6 years to go through it, then I would say, okay, you've got some challenges in these areas, right? And there will always be a balance. There's so many conditions that happen, but it's just about in your mindset, in your institution, looking at these things and saying, are they coming out of school with really good quality? Are they, are enough of them going through the process in the right time and so forth? And this is where kind of the catalyst for do we need to change? Is there something here that can improve this one thing? Is it quality or is it quantity or is it balance? Like what is it? And just having those things in your mindset will allow you to kind of identify the things that might help you change through your organization. All right, and so that's just one way to look at it. The other thing that I think that in the student success environment is that we often, and when I say we, maybe I'm using that generally, but we kind of feel that the gifted students that are coming in, and they have scholarships, so they're not financially, they're used to coming in, out of high school with 98s and 97s, in grades, and they get into university where they're away from home, they're doing all of these things, and all of a sudden, they're still in the 3.8 or the 3.9 GPAs. But they really want to be at a 4.0, right? So we kind of tend to think that a lot of our students are kind of the ones that are struggling, down at the bottom level. And yes, that's where the majority are, sure. But we want to kind of make sure that our balance of the services that we provide really provide help for everybody. All right, and that's part of the equation that we really want to kind of see organizations understand that everybody in the student journey, no matter how good or how poor they're doing, at some point is likely going to need help. And so identifying our services and our goals and how we approach the areas of change that we need to make happen is to include every one of your students. And again, your goal is to, how can I make every student that I recruit get through the assembly line, get through the supply chain, get through the student journey in the optimal amount of time. All right, and so those are the things that we look at some of these measures and some of these patterns that are out there, and really again have a mindset of saying I'm going to review this on a regular basis to see where we stand, see what we can do, who are we working with, and and I know today you're probably all sitting there saying, well, I do some of that today, I do some of that today, and that's fantastic, because I know that makes a difference for your institutions. But just, again, ask yourself, is there more value that I can create? Is there, for a different group of students or a different type of service that might really help people come through? So really, create that creative mindset with inside your organization. All right. We have at the end of the slide deck, there is a links to these case studies. But I'm just going to run through the Arizona State University, and this was kind of from a central IT perspective, is that changing from kind of on-premise systems into going to the cloud and accelerating their ability to service the faculties and the departments and the groups within inside the university. And so the opportunity there was to move from on-premise and our own applications to cloud-based applications, and kind of how to structure the teams appropriately for the current day and age. And so the challenge was that staff was have been working on these systems for many years, and that it's going to be a real cultural shift for them to move. So they on the case study talks about the positive messaging. So really articulating clearly what the goals of the plan were, what the leadership buy-in was, and all of the things that we talked about, from SWOT analysis to the different models. They took this and they put this into practice, and really telling and communicating at every step what was going to happen, why it was going to happen, and what you should see as results, and here's what we're going to measure, and here's what the value is to our organization. And so by doing that, they really engaged all of the organization in terms of being a part and seeing this project and working through the ups and downs, and the fail fast so that you can correct it and you can learn from it and move forward. Those were the things that they did very, very well. And also, and I'm guilty of this all the time, is I don't realize sometimes that I come from a very technical background, and so the way I describe things and the way my assumptions kind of sometimes overtake me to say, oh, this person is not a technology person, they're a business person, they're in full academics and not a technical person. So I really need to think about how I communicate to them and how I understand their perspective, so that I can articulate what we need to do in their language, in their terms. And so those are some of the things that ASU did very well in terms of engaging and understanding their stakeholders and who they needed to communicate with to make sure that this happened very effectively. Okay. And so the results were kind of very positive. So projects ran faster, they were completed on time. The culture was enriched because they now said, hey, we have these ideas, and we can now see that ideas can be put into practice, because we don't have all these older systems that just aren't available to change. We have this new environment that we can really see things happen. And so again, it's they all work on top of each other. So if you can get that momentum going in a change environment, there can be big benefits beyond the project that you're working on, right? That cultural aspect of, hey, we've moved from a late majority adopter to an early majority organization. So things are moving faster. I can have a say. I can make changes happen. That's a huge cultural thing for most organizations. And so this is some of the benefits. And I'm not going to go through much more of that, because hopefully you'll be able to read the case study online and get all the details there. But very again, it really brought the organization to a new level of execution and understanding. Okay, well, yeah, I talked for 40 minutes, and I'm open to look for questions, and here's the resources. So this presentation we'll package it up and get it sent to everybody that's on the list, and we'll go from there. All right, any questions or This is my first webinar with ICLCA, so I'm not sure how things go forward from here.
You're doing a great job there, Ed. Just if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat. I can also turn on the, let's see if I can turn on the audio for everybody. Let's see if that'll work. Probably the easiest right now is the chat.
And again, we're so we're open that if questions come up later on, or somebody wants to dig into specifics, happy to help in that arena. And obviously, if anybody wants to know more about Quad C, I'm open for that as well. Yeah.
So the audio is turned on. If anyone has any direct questions, you just click and turn on your microphone, and you can ask your questions. While we're waiting on that, I am going to launch a poll real quick.
Okay.
If I can find it. So in this poll, for those that are still here, we wonder just how did you learn about the webinar? Was it from an email from ICLCA, SINAT, Learn Assist? How likely are you to explore the product or vendor in the future? Overall quality of the presentation, and any other partners products you would like to learn about. So whoever wants to do it, just let us know, and we thank you. Any questions for Ed while we still have him on?
Okay.
Again, I want to thank Ed and Quad C for providing today's webinar and sponsoring ICLCA. Without their help, we wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things at the conference. I know they sponsored several things at the conference and different things as well. So that was greatly appreciated, and so I wanted to thank them. And Ed, any last comments?
Yeah, no, I think that, thank you. I think organizations like ICLCA, and others are so important in this environment that we share, that we really need to share our ideas across organizations, within our organizations as well, because that's really where we're going to see momentum in the industry. And I think that there's a lot of change. There is a lot of change happening now, and I think there's it's important that we embrace it, and kind of move it forward. So hopefully this gave a little bit of insight. If it helped one or two people, that's fine, and hopefully a little more. All right, but thank you for staying and listening to the whole presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Lanice, are you still there? I see you have your hand up. Did you have a question?
Okay, yeah. So I saw the question in the chat. Yeah, so when so the question is that how do you work with non-structured change? For example, a supervisor requesting change but not giving any guidance. So that is a real challenge that many have, is to say, we got to fix this, we got to go do something, or we got to do this, and so we really take it as a discovery question, and to go back into the creators of the question and say, I need a little more detail, because I need to understand your perspective on what needs to change, and from there, again, it's that catalyst. If you start to break down that wheel of as is to to be, is to start to understand, then you can start to go to the other stakeholders and say, this supervisor believes that we should be able to do ABC. What's your perspective on this? And so you can start to generate, the ideas and the flow. and go back to that supervisor at some stage and say, hey, I've talked to this community of people, and here's their impressions of what we can and can't do. How aligned are you with what we're proposing, or what we can't do, or what we can do? And so that's the way I would approach that. It's really it's a discovery, because if you don't know what they're really asking for, what the guidance they're giving, you're shooting a little bit in the dark, and sometimes people go off and do a bunch of work and then have the supervisor come back and say, well, that's not what I meant, and I'm sure everybody's experienced that at some point. So I'd really engage with the supervisor, get a little more clarity, work with the group around the aspect that you're trying to understand, and get their insight in there, so when you come back you have a full picture of what is possible and what's not possible, and that will then lead into a direction and start to provide some guidance. I hope that answered your question.
Any other questions for Ed while we've still got him on? Okay, well, I guess we'll go ahead and close it up for today. So I will send this recording out to Ed and the folks at Quad C, and then ask them to share that with everybody, maybe a day or so. I know with it being Friday, they probably won't get to it right away, so neither probably will I. So everyone, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the holiday season coming up, and again, thank you all for your support.
All right, thank you, folks. Cheers.